Bum bum bottom 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 bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bum bottom bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bum bum bottom bum bum bottom ba da da 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 ba da da. You are now in session with the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast. I'm Lisa Gullickson.
And I'm Brad Gullickson.
And each month we evaluate a different iconic romance within the four-color realm. And in this episode, belly up to Anthropomorpho's Big Bang Bang Singularities Bar. The drinks are on eternity. Healing factor ain't got nothing to do with the hangover we'll have tomorrow. But we'll take it panel by panel in our Creator Corner. We're getting self-referential with Grant Morrison, talking about Batman, Deadpool from DC and Marvel Comics.
Podcast-wise, 2025 has already delivered several surprises. One, we've already spoken to Grant Morrison. Back in April, we talked with them about All-Star Superman, link in the show notes. During that conversation, Grant mentioned how they would be coming back to Batman comics. Of course, we couldn't possibly have predicted that those Batman comics would be a Marvel-DC crossover. Batman Deadpool. That issue is out today in comic book stores. And the latest surprise is that Grant Morrison would agree to return to Comic Book Couples Counseling to have a conversation about this crossover.
Who knew that, like, Batman and Deadpool would be, like, two great tastes that taste great together, but not, like, in, like, a peanut butter and jelly way. It's like, you know how I like to have, like, a sesame bagel with peanut butter, apricot jelly, and sriracha? It's like that.
Yeah, I think initially people were a little confused by this pairing. I don't know that this was the pairing that people wanted after so many years of anticipation between the last Marvel DC crossover and this one, where it's just like, oh, Batman and Deadpool, like, does that make sense? Does that work? Or is that just cringy capitalism at play?
Well, we survived, like, that era of the, like, Deadpoolification of everything, where, like, every con had 27 different Bob Ross Deadpools.
Did we survive that, Lisa?
I don't know. I feel like it's tapering off.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like this comic specifically celebrates what crossover comics are supposed to be all about. A celebration of the medium that is commentary on where we are currently in comics, but it's also kind of tongue-in-cheek. And I think also Grant successfully slides in a lot of, like, personal agenda type stuff, which I think is, like, behind the scenes stuff, which is super fun.
Yeah, we should tell listeners right now that this is going to be a full spoilers conversation, so you do need to read Batman Deadpool first.
Which is great because you've already picked it up, or you're on your way to the comic book store now.
I am very curious to hear how people react to this comic, how they feel this comic relates to the other Deadpool Batman book that Marvel produced. This is definitely my favorite of the two. I think you do need to have a little context regarding Grant Morrison's career. There are so many Easter eggs in this issue. There are direct homages to their Animal Man run. There's direct homages to, that I think are pretty obvious, you know, their time on New X-Men and their time on Batman. Damian is a big character in this issue. Cassandra Nova is the main threat. But this book is also about Grant's relationship with the comics that they have told previously and the comics that they want to tell in the future. And it turns out, and I should have thought of this the moment it was announced, Deadpool kind of is the perfect character for Grant Morrison, given their time on Animal Man and their relationship with Fourth Wall Breaking.
There is something vulnerable and there is something a little bit gauche about going so meta in an issue. But, like, to me, it's almost, like, endearing.
Oh, absolutely it's endearing. Especially when Grant brings in, again, spoilers, people. I don't want to ruin this for you. Grant brings in the concept of the writer.
Yeah.
Back during their time on Animal Man, Grant Morrison inserted themselves into the final issues of their run, where Grant Morrison, the writer, was having conversations with Buddy Baker, the superhero, and explaining why Grant Morrison put Buddy Baker and his family through so much hell. And then a few years later, writer John Ostrander took the character of Grant, the character of the writer, and put them into the Suicide Squad issue number 58, which was a tie-in to the War of the Gods Wonder Woman storyline, where the Suicide Squad go to Cersei's island and the character of the writer is on the team and is immediately killed.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got to talk about that with Grant Morrison.
So this comic is a little bit about hurt feelings. It's a little bit about learning to let go of your ideas and not think about each idea as being like this precious flower that has to be, perfectly maintained. It's just like, we're making comics here. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be silly. And we don't always have to take it super serious, but also, we should be taking it super serious.
Yeah. The first time I read this issue, DC sent us the PDF, and I read it real quick. I read it late at night, like something like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I read it and I went like, okay, yeah. Oh, cool. Dark Claw. Oh, Dead Bat. Again, spoilers. Dead Bat. That's fun. He pops up during climax between the DC and Marvel universes having sex. That's hilarious. I like that. And then I went to sleep. And then I had to prepare for this conversation, and I reread it. And early on in the issue, you have that direct homage to Animal Man where Deadpool turns to the reader and says, I see you. That's the same thing happens in Animal Man. Buddy Baker turns to the reader and goes, I see you, during a peyote trip. That then culminates in Animal Man number 25, where Buddy meets Grant Morrison. And then I decided, I better go back and read Animal Man 25. So I did. That comic is so good. Lisa, you still haven't read Animal Man.
Right.
I'm so excited for you to read Animal Man in the wake of this conversation. And then that led me to, researching online. And that's when I discovered about Suicide Squad issue 58. And I bought a digital copy of Suicide Squad 58 and read it. And then I saw how this book basically begins amongst the corpses of that issue. And I fell in love with what Grant Morrison and Dan Mora are doing in this crossover. I think it is really special, especially if you love Grant Morrison as much as we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think we can go into the conversation now.
Yeah, okay. So the full credits for this story, it's called The Cosmic Kiss Caper. Grant Morrison is the writer. Dan Mora is the artist. Alejandro Sanchez is the colorist. Todd Klein is the letterer. But what's also really exciting about the Batman Deadpool issue is that there are several other crossover comics within it. Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williamson write a Doctor Strange, John Constantine story that's illustrated by Hayden Sherman.
Yay!
You cannot miss that. You also cannot miss the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo, Nightwing, Wolverine story. You can't miss the Mariko Tamaki, Amanda Connor, Harley Quinn Hulk story, or the G. Willow Wilson and Denys Cowan static Ms. Marvel story. It's a hefty comic, well worth the $7.99. The Cosmic Kiss Caper story itself is 27 pages, so an extra long single issue right there.
Okay, we did it. Intro done. Let's bring in Grant Morrison.
Grant, good to see you. Welcome back to Comic Book Couples Counseling.
You too. Thanks for inviting us back. It's great to be here.
Oh, man. I could not possibly have imagined having this conversation about Batman Deadpool. When we last spoke, you referenced that you would be coming back to Batman in some way. And then, boy, here we are. We're surprised for this collision of universes. What was the initial excitement about coming back for this project particularly?
Well, it was a weird one, honestly. I would never have thought, like you, I would never have thought that I would be so excited about doing this thing. But Marie Javins got in touch and said, would you be interested in doing Batman Deadpool? And instantly I had an idea. And the idea was obviously, Deadpool breaks the fourth wall all the time. So I had some unfinished business to do with the fourth wall going back quite a few decades. So I just had this idea of that notion of that cosmic keyboard from the, that weird Suicide Squad story, and the whole thing fell into place. And I just had to do it. Unfortunately, it's Batman that I love, and Deadpool, I really enjoyed the movies. So I was kind of trying to do a Deadpool that was faithful to the movie version.
So the biggest surprise when reading the issue is that it does directly reference the Suicide Squad 58, in
Yeah.
which John Ostrander takes the character of the writer, your self-insert from Animal Man, and kills them. So do you see this issue of Batman Deadpool being a little bit of revenge or righting a wrong?
Well, I guess it's a kind of revenge, isn't it? I mean, Deadpool's a mercenary, and this is him going in on my behalf to kind of right a few wrongs here. But it was more just the notion that there was that dangling thread, that was always there. I thought, I've got to do something with that. And the thing that sealed the deal for me was when Jeff Johns asked me to appear on the Titans TV show as the writer. So I kind of thought, well, there's an Earth 9 writer out there. I think Earth 9's the designation for the TV show Titans. But I figured, okay, there's a version of the writer out there who's not me again, another version. So he's kind of the version that appears in this story. So it does have this kind of double distance from me. And it just seemed, everything about it just seemed to be really funny to, like I say, to tie up a few odd loose ends.
Can you talk about how it feels to have a loose end such as that, where like you create this character, you literally put yourself in it, and then that character gets treated so carelessly? Like when you work in comics and you're collaborating in this very specific way, it's a practice in like release and letting go, because other creators are not going to hold the same thing sacred that you hold sacred.
No, I'm absolutely. And as I said, it was always interesting to see myself turn up, because the version in Suicide Squad is almost different from the version in Animal Man. And it's like Chinese whispers. That version of me is like two versions down from reality. So he kind of always looked like he was wearing this Fiddler on the Roof, like Russian peasant blouse and boots outfit. And to me, it was always really funny. He was just getting further and further from me in reality. But yeah, as you say, the one thing that drove me mad about that whole thing was that the writer in the story is defeated because he has writer's block. And I was always driven daft by this, because like we don't have writer's block. If you're writing comic books specifically, or if you're writing anything on a deadline, you don't have time for writer's block. You don't have the indulgence of writer's block. So I was kind of always mad. And I was thinking I would have easily plotted my way out of that story. I'd have just said that the werewolves or the bestial morphs turn to glass, or turn to gas, or turn to newspaper. But no, it was that was the one element of it that I had to redress, that we never run out of plot.
I love what you put, or maybe Dan put it, or maybe you put it, the saying on the fourth wall that the plot need not be the best possible. Is there like a value judgment attached to that, or an emotion attached to that? Or is that kind of like, like you said, you have to put out stories so quickly, you can't prioritize having the very best idea you've ever had every single time?
Well, there is that, and I think, but that was actually a kind of Easter egg. There's a lot of little Easter eggs to a whole bunch of DC and Marvel crossovers in there. And when they were doing the original JLA Avengers, I think it was Jerry Conway was the writer originally, and George Perez was the artist. And Jim Shooter, who was the head at Marvel at the time, and Dick Giordano was head at DC, and Shooter just wasn't happy with the plot. And all of this is reported in the collected edition for the JLA Avengers book that eventually did come out by Kurt Busiek and George Perez. But there was a lot of contention over the plot at the time. And Jim Shooter had written in and said, I don't like this. This isn't good enough. We need to have a much more finished plot. And Dick Giordano's famous response was, the plot need not be the best possible to have a successful comic. So I just wanted that on the wall, to exonerate myself from in case anybody said the plot's not necessarily the best in this one. But yeah, that was that. And also around that, there's all the names there are all DC or Marvel characters who have broken the fourth wall.
Yeah, and then it leads to an homage to that famous Animal Man moment in which Buddy turns to the reader. This time it's obviously Wade Wilson turning to the reader
Yeah.
and seeing us.
Yeah, and naturally he catches us doing something that he doesn't specify, but it's clearly not entirely salubrious.
And that's what's also so fun about this issue is it really begins with, you know, the DC universe and the Marvel universe getting together through whatever cosmic grinder and having an intimate moment. When did that jump into the creation of this issue?
Well, again, that was an obvious one because those two characters were quite a big deal in JLA Avengers. And JLA Avengers, as I said, by Busiek and Perez, was the last DC Marvel crossover before this tradition was revived with Batman and Deadpool Batman book. So I kind of wanted to have a direct line going from that, you know. I mean, and my book, I really wanted to, as I say, make a point of you know, having a lot of Easter eggs about those various DC Marvel crossovers. So I definitely wanted those two characters to be in there. And again, it just seemed perfect for that irreverent Deadpool tone that where it's portrayed as this kind of cosmic love affair in JLA Avengers that we portray it as more a kind of sordid one night in eternity stand. And it just kind of, again, suited the tone, but it also picked up a thread from that book to show that there was continuity here.
You talk a little bit about this in your book, Super Gods. When did you become aware of the different sensibilities of Marvel and DC?
Oh, it's immediately when I was a kid. It's the reason I didn't like Marvel comics when I was a big kid, because they always seemed so angry. And they didn't wear their superhero suits a lot as well, in those early, say, Fantastic Fours and things like that. So no, I just found them really angry and angst-ridden, and I hated those books when I was a kid. And I guess I knew there was a difference the entire way. You know, DC heroes were rational and calm and sunlit and get the job done and were good friends with one another. And Marvel heroes were always fighting each other, and kind of the baddies would turn up in Act 3 and get a doing. So I knew there was a difference from the very beginning. But once I got into Marvel in the 70s with the cosmic stuff, then the difference became more interesting to me. I mean, I thought that Marvel handled the cosmic side of it and the psychedelic side of it so much better than DC.
Yeah, the cliche has always been like, you know, Marvel talks about the world outside your window, and therefore there's a lot of like internal conflict. You got to pay the bills. And DC Comics is like, you know, mythology. Do you feel that those sensibilities have maintained themselves, or do you think that both universes or both sensibilities have evolved since the Silver Age?
Oh, definitely. I mean, both Marvel and DC have become more like one another, and there's reasons for that. You know, they're competitors in a particular field, and it's a shrinking field to some extent. So they do tend to copy one another, and you'll see events that are echoed with other events in DC and Marvel. So I think a lot of the things that made them very different and very distinct have eroded over the time. You know, they both have sprawling multiverses now. They both have kind of colourful cartoon characters that can join the Avengers. So yeah, I mean, they're very similar now.
Let's go ahead and pause for just a moment because we got to hear from our sponsors.
Hello? Hello? Does anybody read me? This is Captain John Kilpack of the spaceship Event Horizon. My crew and I attempted faster than light travel and have found ourselves stranded someplace that defies understanding. One of my crew is dead already, murdered by some creature claiming this space to be hell. And I fear it may be correct.
This November, Event Horizon Dark Descent, the terrifying comic book prequel series to the classic 90s hell-raising sci-fi film, reaches its epic third issue. And if you always wanted to know the gory details about exactly what went down when the Event Horizon crew were transported to hell, this is the issue you cannot miss. From writer Kristen Ward and artist Tristan Jones, Event Horizon Dark Descent number 3 lands in comic book shops on November 12th, courtesy of IDW Publishing, with a killer cover by Jeffrey Allen Love and a variant cover by Chris Burnham.
The dead have appeared to me, and there is something else loose upon the ship. If you could hear me, it may be too late for you. Libera te tutume ex interis. I'm such a good actor.
You are. You truly are. You inspire me.
I love Deadpool as a representative of Marvel, and I'm not like a huge Deadpool guy, so like this is complicated for me. But like in the context of what you were just saying, Marvel kind of celebrates the flaws of characters, you know, and they really are saving the day despite their flaws. Where I feel like Batman is all about like using all of his strengths. You know, like he is a collection of strengths, and while he does have flaws, they're not like the center of his being. And there was one line that you put for Deadpool that I just really related to, and it was when Deadpool says, like, do you ever feel like you're being watched? I do all of the time, and it's a huge responsibility because I have to give these voyeurs their money's worth. Like, I'm a person who I'm a people pleaser, and I have that entertainment gene where it's just like, it's my responsibility to make sure that everybody's having a good time, and I'm, you know, making a silly joke and all of that stuff. And you have an understanding of Deadpool that I feel like nobody's really put a finger on yet. Do you relate at all?
To Deadpool? Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, I think you have to relate to all the characters, and with Deadpool, it was very specific. It's like, how is he going to deal with Batman? And as I've said before, it wasn't like with Wolverine in that movie. You know, Wolverine was very stoic and inward turning, and Deadpool could get under his skin. Whereas for me, Batman, as you say, Batman's a completed human being. Batman has actually found the thing that stops him from going mad. And the Batman for me is that character who's basically been through years of training, and he's won every fight pretty much, and he's been through all kinds of meditation and techniques to make him a better version of himself. So I always think Batman's pretty together, and he has an underlying sense of humor, which is really super dry and super dark. So for me, when he meets up with Deadpool is no match for that. And Deadpool has to constantly kind of acknowledge it, and Batman just says, you know, every time Deadpool thinks he's getting the better of Batman only has to say, "I'm Batman," and Deadpool, who understands all of pop culture, just has to acknowledge, "Oh, okay, you know, I can't win here. You're Batman." So yeah, for me, Deadpool was playing the role almost of the comedy foil in this, and Batman's the comedian in it, and it reverses the roles a little bit, and that's why I was able to get a little bit of what I thought was more compassion for Deadpool. There's a bit where Batman actually says to him, "Oh, the healing factor must be painful." And I thought, no one ever says that to Deadpool. No, they just accept that this thing happens and he has to regrow a leg or something. And I thought Batman's kind of the one person who actually acknowledges that, you know. So yeah, there was a definite attempt to give Deadpool more of almost the underdog in this story, and so that allowed him to get a little bit more of that Marvel style depth.
And it also gave an opportunity for Batman to show his grace, which I don't think we see a lot, where he really does see and understand and create space for people. Otherwise, he would never put up with Damian or his Robins or whatever. These people who are love vacuums, like attention vacuums.
Yeah, and also who talk a lot. I mean, for me, what cracked the Batman-Deadpool relationship was when I come up with the line, you know, when Deadpool's just jabbering away and says, you're a tough gig. And Batman kind of says, you know, I've fought crime with a hyperactive kid for years, and my arch enemy's a disfigured clown. Have you been talking this whole time? You know, he's used to this stuff. He just tunes out, and he's absolutely used to people just like Deadpool. So I thought that added another interesting kind of wrinkle to them. And again, it brought out a side of Batman that we don't necessarily think about. And as I say, the whole story is about Batman doing something compassionate for a former supervillain, even, you know, because I wanted to ground all the cosmic stuff in something that was actually Gotham City based and based around ordinary people and relationships.
I do love that touch where Batman, with no explanation, just through the power of comics and you know, the
the power of the retcon, he does bring Victor's loved one back. I think that is just such a beautiful and touching ending to this really wacky single issue.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be a kind of holiday issue as well, like those, specifically like those old Brave and the Bold, Bob Haney type stories with Jim Aparo. So the idea was very much based on the structure of one of those things. So it had to have that happy holidays, Christmas, fireworks kind of feel. And it needed Batman to do something like that. And because the writer explains that the keyboard can't change canon, so it's not like Batman can bring back his parents then, but he can bring back an obscure, lover of a villain that's never been seen ever before except for this issue. So, she dies and comes back to life in the same comic.
When I first read this, I thought maybe this comic was coming from a cynical place. The sex that happens between the two cosmic characters ultimately is kind of mid. You know what I mean? It's there are lots of people who are walking around this universe who are the result of mediocre to bad sex, and they have no idea. You know what I mean? They're just living their lives. Is this comic coming from is some of this comic coming from a cynical place for you, or is it all just celebration?
Oh no, it definitely has to come from a cynical place as well. I mean, it is Deadpool, and so there has to be all those elements of, I'm looking at it and having a laugh as well at the same time, and there is very much that kind of power of love stuff in there, but there's jokes about that as well. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a cynicism, and the notion of Marvel and DC doing a team up at all, or any kind of crossover is, you can't escape from the capitalist reasons for a lot of that stuff. So it's to make fun of that as well, as but for Deadpool at least to acknowledge the fact that this is just some tawdry, sordid encounter between two universes in a bar somewhere, and that's how it shows in their world.
But then now, every time I just read a Marvel book, I just have to imagine Eternity just furiously jerking it all by himself, which is something.
Yeah, and also, but because I thought, well, when they told me it's only a 27-page story and Marvel's is a very short story, and I thought, well, that's not much, So as you say, it was a kind of mid notion that I thought, if you're going to do DC Marvel, surely you'd have a huge line of books and stuff. So I kind of thought that this was a bit of a throwaway joke, to the sense that why are you doing something that's on such a small scale that is kind of here and done? But yeah, I mean, as predicted, there's going to be more of him next year. So Eternity does get his chance again. He's going to get his chance to make good.
And of course, my favorite joke in the comic is the climax of it that produces Deadbat.
Oh yeah. Well, exactly, and it comes exactly at that moment, and even the caption says that it goes as they come.
And now Deadbat is a notion wandering around.
Yeah, well, I figured somebody's eventually going to have to do something with it now, because I'm hoping the fans will go crazy for this new character find of 2025 and demand a Deadbat series.
Yeah, and when this crossover was initially announced, there was a little bit of disappointment, we were hoping for some more amalgam, but y'all were hiding how much of an amalgam comic this is.
Oh yeah,
Dark Claws here, and now we get Deadbat. What are your feelings about the amalgam characters?
I thought it was fun. People always love that kind of stuff, It's those little foldy things you used to get that I used to love, where you'd flip them around and get different bodies with different heads. So yeah, I think it works, and I knew that I had to have Darkclaw, that people wouldn't be happy with this issue unless I at least had him show up. So fortunately, the kind of psychedelic interior of a mind nature of the story allowed me to just go anywhere with it, and we were able to get not only Darkclaw but Deadbat is the one.
You've included many of your brain babies in this comic with Cassandra Nova and Damian Wayne, and do you feel I don't know how to ask this question. You don't have to edit this out.
Well, but
like,
no, I can edit around it.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I have like two parallel questions in my mind. Like, one question is like, is the sense of responsibility different for a character, like for a character where you go like, this is going to be a legacy character. Damian Wayne is going to be a legacy character versus something like, Dead Bat or, something that's just like more.
Or playing with Batman, playing with Deadpool.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that can be the question.
Well, the thing is, with Damien was originally supposed to die, so he was that kind of character who would just show up and flame out. But people liked him, so it's hard to say with that. With Dead Pat, it was always going to be just a joke. It had to be the ridiculous. Here's what happens when we run out of ideas, but it's kind of the perfect idea for that book, and it's the perfect end image for it. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question or if even that's. Comes close to the question.
Well, do you feel differently about playing with Cassandra
about those?
Nova?
Yeah, about those characters specifically. I mean, again, that came from the brief, the very simple brief, which was it's Batman and it's Deadpool, and you can do the villain has to come from the opposite company. So for me, it was a villain from Marvel and a guest star, and so I figured the guest star is going to be Damien because I did want the book to be appealing to people who don't really know these characters aside from movies. So again, Damien seemed obvious, son of Batman, he's Robin, everyone can understand that concept, even though he's only going to be on panel for about 4 or 5 panels of the story. And the same went for Cassandra Nova. She only turns up in the middle of the story, so you can't really have a great backstory or build-up for her. But what I knew was that she'd been in the Batman, Deadpool Wolverine movie, and people would understand her from that because she already had a connection with Wolverine, and her power was so distinctive that all I had to do was show that, and I think people would completely connect. So that was that, and then it was the obvious delight of that I'd created both these characters, so I could obviously then make a thing out of that and kind of make a joke out of that as well. So it just all those things just fell together quite luckily, and that was the decision.
Well, what is it about Cassandra Nova trying to get the upper hand on the writer, and then the writer saying no?
Yeah, well, it's just that's her, isn't it? That's what she would try to do, but unfortunately, she's dealing with something that's slightly higher up the narrative food chain than she is, and she has to acknowledge that, and she's stuck. But as I say, she'll always come back. She'll come back and do something else next time.
I can't help but think again about the Suicide Squad issue and how the writer was used, and here you are bringing Cassandra and Damian into this story. And the writer again into this story, and the writer going like, I'm the boss, is that? But that's not Grant Morrison saying I'm the boss of these characters.
Well, no, I mean, but in this case, I'm doing it through this figure, which, as I say, is the version of the writer who appeared on Teen Titans. So I can again deny all responsibility for that being me. But yeah, I mean, ultimately it's the writer. And again, going back to one of the big inspirations, which was the Brave and the Bold, there's a classic issue where there's terrorists holding Jim Aparo at gunpoint on the cover, and they're forcing him to have Sergeant Rock shoot Batman on the comic page. So again, I was thinking about stuff like that. And as I say, everything just fell into place. All the little elements I wanted to play with just really worked well together in this particular story.
It's that time again. We have to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to face the future? Look no further than 2000 AD. It's the galaxy's greatest comic. Every week, 2000 AD brings the best in sci-fi and horror, featuring characters like Judge Dredd, Rogue Trooper, and more.
Get a print subscription to 2000 AD, and it'll arrive through the mailbox every week, and your first issue is free. You'll also receive the 100-page 2000 AD Christmas special this December at no extra cost.
Or subscribe digitally and you can download DRM-free copies of each issue for only $9 a month. That's 128 pages of incredible comics every month for less than $10.
Head to 2000 AD and click on subscribe now, or download the 2000 AD app and start reading today.
Yeah, I mean, metafiction has been around as long as fiction has been around. And obviously, I think a lot about Looney Tunes and whenever the animator would take control of Bugs Bunny or Daffy Duck.
Yeah.
It happens all the time in comics, as you just mentioned with that Sergeant Rock Batman Brave and the Bold issue. And, you had such a huge time breaking the fourth wall with Animal Man. Do you feel like your relationship with fourth wall breaking is different now than it was when when the writer met Buddy Baker back in that Animal Man series?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I understand it a little bit because it kind of became my thing. Once I did that in Animal Man, it became the element of comics that I most wanted to explore, and that real specific relationship between the reader and the writer, and the fact that you hold the comic and turn the pages and you can go backwards and forwards, and the way we relate to time in a comic. So that actually just became my area of study, I think. So definitely, I mean, I feel I'm a lot more confident about doing that kind of work now than I did back then, and I feel even more so that the comic page and the comics characters are, if not as real as me, often more real than me, which again it allows you to relate to them in a slightly more interesting way.
Now we got to talk about the souvenir that the writer takes with them.
Yeah.
At the end of this issue, is the souvenir the comic book itself, the story itself?
Well, there is that. I mean, in the story, he's sort of suggesting that the keyboard is the souvenir, but of course, yeah, the souvenir is what you take away. And it could even be me saying, I don't know if I'll get back. The president's rebuilding the fourth wall to keep bad ideas out, so I'm not sure if I'll get back in. So there was a kind of wry glance towards those possibilities. But yeah, that was just the finale, the joke that had to be there. I had to take something to justify the story at all.
A joke that, again, Lisa then says is punctuated with a gift to Victor, to Sportsmaster.
Yeah, and as I say, Bruce could have taken a gift for himself, but he doesn't. We've seen him with someone that he's seen grieving and someone who's hurt, and that's the decision he makes. Is like, okay, I'll wrap up that guy's story. I'm going to make sure they have a good Christmas this year.
So the writer has the souvenir, has the story, has the cosmic keyboard, but also maybe the writer has a reignited interest in these worlds again. And I imagine that playing around in comics once more, it's been a little while, but I hear tell that you may not be going away anytime soon.
No, definitely. I mean, I really enjoyed doing that, and it kind of reignited my interest and the fact that I was done just the craft of it and playing with the pages and the images. But no, I don't have any mainstream superhero stuff right now lined up. I've got a bunch of new comics that I want to do next year, a couple of horror things, and I'm going back to the Sebastian O character that I did at Vertigo back in 1993 or whenever it was. So I've got another one of those that I'm really excited with, and doing this Captain Clyde thing, which is my Scottish superhero from when I started out. When I was 19 years old, I did this newspaper strip. So we're kind of doing him teaming up with Etienne Kabwabo's Glasgow superhero DGAET. So it's two generations of Glasgow superheroes in this big epic story that's going to come out at the end of next year. So that's the only superhero thing I'm doing, which is an old one of mine. But definitely been reinvigorated with comics. So there's a lot of comics coming out next year.
That's exciting. And, I was surprised to hear about Sebastian O, and now you going back even further to your origins. Can you say a little bit more about the appeal of going back?
Well, I've never had any particular nostalgia for anything, so it becomes just suddenly something will leap into mind. Like Sebastian O, I had no intention or thought to go back to it. And then suddenly a story idea appeared and it suited Sebastian O. So I got in touch with Steve and said, do you want to do it? And he did. So yeah, I'm at the stage of I'm following the muse. If some idea comes fluttering in the window like Batman's bat, then I'll kind of attach myself to it and develop that. But it's been more fun because I don't have anything specific to do, so I'm just generating new ideas.
I just realized I didn't really ask you earlier about the importance of publishers coming together every once in a while. You know, like when the initial team up between Marvel and DC happened, it came at a point when comics, or at least big two publishing comics, weren't that profitable. Is it important that these companies play ball every now and again?
Well, honestly, as a fan, and especially back then, I just thought it was great when Superman and Spider-Man had that book. You know, it just seemed so big and so important. So I kind of think it's something that the fans always enjoy, and I'm sure that the companies enjoy it because the books sell incredibly well. You know, it is really just like combining two of your favorite flavors, so it's always going to work. So I'd imagine that for everyone there are reasons, you know, positive reasons to do it. I just think it's fun, you know. It's and especially when they do a bunch of them and you don't know who's coming next. I mean, they did like a Dark Side Galactus one, I think, with John Byrne back in the day. So it got to the point where it could be anybody, you know. It could be like an old issue of Raven the Bold or World's Finest, but it could be any two characters in these books. So that I'm all for it. I think it's a good idea.
And how do you feel about, you know, the future of these two companies? How do you feel about the future of superhero storytelling?
I don't know. I mean, it'll always be there. I think people like the idea of superheroes, but there's so many ways of doing them now, and there's so many outlets for different ways of doing it. How long will the DC Marvel superhero characters last? You know, especially when it gets up towards a time where they go into public domain and there'll be a lot of fights over that stuff, and then weird versions of things will start to appear. So yeah, they have rough terrain ahead of them, but I think still now there's still an interest in this stuff, and if someone comes up with a good way of doing something, it's always going to be of interest. You know, always work.
And the delivery system of comics is always up in the air. A conversation that's old but ongoing. How do you feel about storytelling, sequential storytelling, and how it's being delivered in 2025?
Well, again, I'm probably the wrong person to ask since I don't really see much of it at all. You know, I used to get sent my big cardboard boxes of DC books, but I don't get those things. And I rarely look at anything online. I read reviews and I'll read, you know, people talking about comics, but I don't actually read the actual comics. So I actually don't know how they're being delivered or how people are reading them. I always favour just the pamphlet, the comic, because you're holding it and you interact with it in a really interesting way. But there's other ways of looking at things, and usually they look nicer on screens. But I don't know how people get them anymore. Telepathically, I suppose.
That's coming. That's coming for sure.
Yeah.
We can't end this conversation without talking about Dan Mora, you know, your Klaus collaborator. What was it teaming back up with Dan?
Oh, just fantastic. I mean, he was another the big reasons why I chose to do it when they told me Dan would do it. And like I said, you know, I should have guessed Dan would do it because Dan draws every DC comic, I think, you know, and especially if there's a big important DC comic, a special issue, Dan's definitely going to be there. But he's just great. He really understands the work, and as I've said often, what he does is all his characters are acting, and everyone's aware of the story that they're in. You know, and a lot of my work is dependent on these nuances, and the script's filled with little glances to the side, or particular postures, or ways that people are relating in the background. And when that information's missing, the stories can be a bit flat or skewed. But Dan hits every note. And he does it even better than you'd imagine because he has everyone in the scene working like that. You know, he has everyone reacting to everyone else. And he's just a great storyteller, a great draftsman, great page layouts, everything about his work. You know, I think right now he's the consummate mainstream comic artist. He's the best superhero artist around at the minute. So no, I was really lucky to get him, and he does a brilliant job.
It's wonderful seeing him playing with both universes, and it's wonderful seeing him playing with you again. And Grant, it just was such a pleasure to have this conversation and to talk about this specific comic, which had to be one of the biggest surprises of 2025 for us.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens next year. See if I can out-surprise you.
Please do. Please do. And I tried to get you to say something bad about John Ostrander, and you wouldn't do it. So that was great, too.
Come on, he was just trying to get a story in that week, you know, and he chose to kill me in order to do it.
Grant, thank you so much. You have a great one.
You're welcome. You too. It's good talking.
Yeah.
See you guys.
And there you go. That was our conversation with Grant Morrison all about Batman Deadpool #1, which is out now, and you've already read it.
I feel like I really didn't close the loop on my relating to Deadpool and like feeling like a performative person in life. I feel like sometimes, like in comics, the fourth wall is a connecting thing. It brings the writer, it creates a tether between the writer to the character to the reader.
Right.
But I feel like sometimes when I'm getting that I'm being watched feeling, I put up a wall of like, I don't know what it is, like performance between me and the people I think are watching me, who might not even be watching me at all.
Lisa,
like this, like kind of like my idea of having an audience.
We can cut this out if you want to, but with everything that we're going through right now, last night we had to go meet a group of strangers and present them with a batch of cookies. Right. And I feel like that's what you're talking about.
A little bit.
That moment, you're not phony. You're not performing. You're not pretending, but you are putting on a costume.
Yeah, I'm doing some formality. Doing some formality. So as some of you who follow us on social media, you guys know that I'm grieving right now, as is Brad. My dad just passed away. And there is a lot of fourth wall creating for this where, so in that context, my dad was part of a community that meets on the regular. And so we brought them cookies and thanked them for supporting my dad and being part of this community. And, I had to give like a little speech. And, I am genuinely sad, but I'm also showing people that I am sad. You know what I mean? And I'm also making, and because I'm myself, I'm like making a joke about how I'm sad.
Yeah, but also you're speaking to an audience, right?
Yeah,
you're putting yourself in the role of performer.
Yeah, but I also think it happens in like little ways too, where people come up to you and they ask you like, how's it going? How are you feeling? And then you have to say the thing, and you want
or not say the thing.
Yeah.
You choose like, well, they actually don't want to know how I'm actually feeling. I cannot drop all of my sadness on them because they're just a barista.
Yeah. But where I relate to Deadpool is that, like I have to give these voyeurs their money's worth. I'm working. Like it's like emotional work to create this fourth wall, to protect other people from how I really feel and protect myself from letting other people know my true
You're
feelings.
talking a little bit about code switching and how we all code switch in the world.
Yeah.
And I think, a fourth wall always exists between you and whoever you're experiencing life within that moment.
Yeah.
I don't know about always, but
yeah, I feel like most of the time. Most of the time. Because there is no way to actually express your true unfiltered thoughts, because just turning them into language or turning them into an expression of any kind is just a translation of something that's ineffable.
And I think when we are going through moments of heightened emotion, that wall just becomes more visible.
It feels more, it creates a connection, but it also creates a separation, or acknowledges. That's it. It acknowledges a separation.
I like that.
When Deadpool looks at you through the comic, it makes you realize that you're connected, but it also reminds you that you're separated by the page.
Yeah.
Where when you feel that fourth wall in life, it reminds you we're all this big human family, we're just hot sacks of sticky stuff and bones.
Yeah.
But also we're separate people who can't express ourselves.
Also really appreciated about this conversation with Grant is how they wanted to make it clear that the writer in this issue of Batman Deadpool is not the writer from the Suicide Squad issue 58, or even the writer from Animal Man number 25. That this is a new writer or a variation of that writer.
Yeah, they're not even called the writer. They're called the phantom stenographer.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
But their climax, so to speak, of like, do you want to see what it looks like when I run out of ideas? Like this rebellion against the very idea of Grant ever having writer's block or writer's block being a thing.
Right.
Like, writer's block is only a thing if you have standards for your ideas.
Yeah.
You know, where you go like, dead bat, that's stupid. I'm not going to write that. That's writer's block. Like, the absence of writer's block is letting Deadbat exist.
And that's a direct response to John Ostrander and how the character of the writer was killed in the Suicide Squad issue 58, where the writer just couldn't think of anything. And in that moment of writer's block is killed by this werebeast.
Right.
And Grant now is saying, like, that's silly.
That's silly.
And
writer's block is self-doubt. It's not a lack of ideas.
That's as much of a revenge that Grant has upon John Ostrander as anything. Like, I wanted him to use harsher language against John Ostrander, but Grant also has matured quite a bit and understands that, hey, we all got jobs.
Yeah.
We all got to write something.
Yeah.
Man, I just loved that moment. I loved the moment when I reread this issue, and then it sent me down that rabbit hole where it's like, well, now I got to read the Suicide Squad 58. Like, this is why comics are awesome, right? Mm-hmm. So if you did read Batman Deadpool number 1 and you're like, okay, that's something, I would encourage you to go back, read some Animal Man, read that Suicide Squad 58, and then reread this issue. I do think there's something there that is cheeky. Like, this is a fun lark of a comic, but also it's serious business.
Yeah.
And I also learned that my reading is not done. I do need to go back and read the original JLA Avengers crossover book, because I did not clock those cosmic beings from that run. I knew, like, Eternity. I was like, okay, well, that's Eternity, but who's that green cosmic character? And I guess that's from the JLA Avengers run. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to find time to reread that.
You don't have to have read all of that to enjoy this issue, though. You can just kind of like embrace the not knowing.
Yeah.
Just kind of trust fall into the story. Not everybody enjoys research.
That's a fact. It's interesting. Like, comics it's fascinating, right? Like, when I came to comics in the 90s as a child, as a 10-year-old, there was just so much joy to, like, reading a Venom Island story and going like, okay, I need to know a little bit more about this Venom character, and then hunting down the back issues. Like, that is an experience that I think is unique to comics, but not that unique. I think when you watch, like, Seven Samurai for the first time, you go like, okay, well, now I gotta learn the entire history of the Bushido Code and samurai culture.
Yeah, but so many people see that as a barrier for entry for comics, of like, you feel like every comic is in medias res and you're never going to be able to put the pieces together. And I think that's an exaggeration. You can just enjoy a silly story.
Yeah,
or a serious story.
That is totally true. And if you go back to that 10-year-old Brad, many times that kid was just like, I don't get it, but it's cool.
The internet does not exist.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to try to embrace the unknowing, Lisa, but also I'm going to reread JLA Avengers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to bring us to the end of today's episode.
Yeah, we did it. What's coming up next week?
So next week, we're going to try to do 2 episodes. We're going to have a special episode that is going to be dedicated to Leo Marrier,
my dad.
Lisa's dad. That's going to allow us to talk about comic strips, and it's going to allow us to talk about Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
It just feels weird to have that conversation as like banter to another episode.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do that for this episode, right?
Yeah. Of course not. But I do feel that impulse to talk about my dad and talk about his love of comics and kind of memorialize him in this space. And so I appreciate you guys like creating room for that. So thank you.
So that'll be our next episode. And then after that episode, we have a conversation with Adam Rose all about the new trade paperback Huge Detective, which is such a bizarre book. And that's all I'm going to say. You should go read it. It's out now in trade paperback. And we have a conversation with Patrick McDonnell talking about mutts again, just in time for the holiday season. And then it's time to start thinking about the Stampies, our 2-part end of the year episode celebrating the best comics of 2025. We'll have a bunch of guest stars for those episodes. So stay tuned. And if this is your first time listening to Comic Book Couples Counseling, smash that subscribe button. Join the party.
Ew. Our next comic book club will be at Meanwhile Coffee in Herndon, Virginia on December 7th at 3:30. The book is Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. I've never heard you say, like, earnestly smash that subscribe button, and I hated it.
I'm sorry, Lisa. Ugh. But I'm glad you mentioned the comic book club. It's so fun to meet in the meat space and have an actual conversation around a table. Meanwhile, Coffee is such a cool coffee shop. It's a comic book themed coffee shop. They're also having a makers market on the last Saturday of November, which I think is the 28th, maybe the 29th. Check your calendar. Lisa and I will be there in attendance as well. We're going to have a table. We're going to have a banner. We're going to have free stickers. We're going to have pens. We're going to do some podcasting in person. So join us at the Meanwhile Coffee Maker Market in Herndon, Virginia. There'll be a bunch of other creators and artists in attendance as well.
It's going to be our first table.
Yeah, we bought our first banner.
So fun.
So fun.
Is that it for
I think
plugs?
that's it. I think that's it for plugs.
Okay, where can our listeners send the words of affirmation to you?
You can find me on most social medias at MouthDork. If you have some words of affirmation that you'd like to give to our logo, send them to Jesse Lonergan at Jesse Lonergan on Blue Sky or on Jesse.Lonergan on Instagram. I'm not reading. I'm just remembering how this episode
You're doing
ends.
it poorly because I am reading.
Lisa, where can our listeners send the words of affirmation to you?
I'm always accepting words of affirmation at Sidewalk Siren on some social medias. If you'd like to spend more quality time with us, you can subscribe to us on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, Apple Podcasts, or whatever app you choose. We're everywhere. If you'd like to get exclusive, you can join our Patreon, where you'll get more content, including weekly bonus episodes.
If you'd like to reach out and touch us electronically, I have found the script. You can email the podcast, cbccpodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website, comicbookcouplescounseling.com, or follow us on all the socials at CBCC Podcast.
If you'd like us to touch you physically, you can wear our merch, tpublic.com/stores/comicbookcouplescounseling, divided by hyphens. And through the months of November and December, we are giving all of the proceeds from our t-shirt shop to cure pancreatic cancer, because that's what my dad died of.
We haven't found the specific charity yet, but we are going to find that. And then we're going to, like Lisa said, donate all our proceeds from the TeePublic shop, but also our Patreon.
Yes.
And our Patreon's only $1. Join up and give $1 to pancreatic cancer. Not to pancreatic cancer.
Against pancreatic cancer, because it killed my dad.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners send the words of affirmation to you? No, we already did that.
You've already said that, Lisa.
Okay, so what do you say? You say until next time.
No, I say you can give us the gift of 5 stars on Audible or Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to do an act of service, why not write a review or leave a comment on the show while you're there?
What?
Now it's your turn.
Oh,
We are fluent and receptive.
I gotta scroll down. We are fluent and receptive in all 5 love languages. It really warms our hearts and helps the pod.
Thank you, everyone who reached out to us this week with condolences and kind words and loving gestures. It means a lot. Hug your loved ones. Tell your loved ones every day that you love them. And until next time, keep your love tank full.
And your psychic rapport open.
Doopy doopy. Bum bum ba da bum bum ba da ba.